CCTV cameras captured 38-year-old Christy Spakutsa pulling to the curb on Brinton Road, Pennsylvania at 9:15 p.m. on the 10th of February 2022. 22-year-old Calvin Crew, whose girlfriend had ordered the Uber ride, climbed into her backseat wearing a dark hoodie and face mask covering everything but his eyes. For 18 minutes, Christy drove through dark Pennsylvania streets. Then Calvin inched forward to the center seat, grabbed her ponytail, and pressed a black pistol against the back of her skull.
I have 4 kids, what are you doing?
The mother of 4 began pleading for her life as her dashcam became her final witness. That morning, Christy had stood in her Turtle Creek bathroom applying makeup, while her youngest daughter ate cereal at the kitchen table. Brandon Marto, her fiancé of 12 years, was already running late for work. She kissed him goodbye at 7:30, the same ritual they'd performed 1,000 times before. Her shift at her day job would end at 5. Then she'd come home, help the kids with homework, eat dinner with the family, and around 8, she'd head out for her Uber shift. The extra money paid for birthday parties and school supplies. It kept them afloat. Brandon had installed the dashcam 6 months earlier. Other drivers in their Facebook group were posting horror stories. Drunk passengers who grabbed steering wheels, men who refused to exit vehicles, women who screamed accusations at red lights. The rear-facing camera gave Christy peace of mind. If anything happened, there would be proof. They'd even created a code phrase. If she texted picking up groceries, it meant she felt unsafe and he should track her phone immediately. At 8:59 p.m., Christy called Brandon. She just dropped off a passenger in Homewood and was heading to Pitcairn for her next pickup. Her voice sounded tired, but content. She had a 5-star rating. Passengers left reviews praising her friendliness, her clean car, the mints she kept in the cup holder. She took pride in that. Calvin Crew sat on the front porch of the house on Brinton Road, scrolling through his phone. His girlfriend Tanaya Mullen was inside watching television. He'd been texting her for the past 20 minutes about needing a ride. She finally relented and opened her Uber app, requesting a pickup to Durham Drive in Penn Hills. The fare cost $12. The gray Nissan Sentra pulled up 3 minutes later. Christy watched in her rearview mirror as Calvin approached, hood up despite the mild February evening, mask covering his nose and mouth, just his eyes visible. In 2022, masks were still common enough that it didn't immediately trigger alarm. She unlocked the rear passenger door. He slid inside without a word. "How's your night going?" Christy asked, pulling away from the curb. Her voice carried that practiced cheerfulness Uber drivers develop, friendly but not intrusive. Passengers either wanted conversation or silence, and you learned to read the signals fast. Calvin mumbled something incomprehensible. Christy tried again. "Did you have a nice day?" He grunted. She took the hint and focused on driving. The dashcam recorded everything. Calvin sitting motionless in the back passenger seat, hands hidden in his pockets. Christy navigated through Pitcairn's residential streets, then merging onto the expressway. Streetlights cast intermittent shadows across the interior. For 10 minutes, neither spoke. Then Christy glanced at her GPS. They were approaching the destination on Durham Drive. She prepared to ask which side of the street he preferred. That's when she saw movement in her peripheral vision. Calvin was sliding from the passenger side to the center seat. His right hand emerged from his pocket, gripping black metal. Christy's body went rigid as the gun barrel pressed against the base of her skull. She felt his left hand wrap around her ponytail, yanking her head back slightly. "Keep driving," Calvin said. His voice was flat, matter of fact. Christy's breathing accelerated. Her hands remained steady on the wheel because she had no choice. One wrong move and the gun would fire. "Stop it, man," she said. Her tone was measured, reasonable, like she was addressing a confused child rather than an armed robber. "Why are you doing this?" "Complete the trip," Calvin responded, "and now drive." The GPS showed they'd reached the destination, but Christy drove past it, her mind racing through options. Brandon was home with the kids. They'd be watching television. He wouldn't check her location unless she sent the code phrase, and her phone was in the cup holder 6 inches from Calvin's free hand. She thought about grabbing it, thought about screaming, thought about slamming the brakes and running, but the gun pressed against her skull eliminated every option. "I can't do that," Christy said. She was thinking about her children. Her oldest was 15, her youngest was 6. She thought about the birthday party they'd planned for next weekend, the cake she'd already ordered. "Why are you doing this?" "Come on, I have a family," she continued. Her voice cracked slightly. The gun pressed harder against her skull. "I have a family too," Calvin said. "Now drive." "Please," Christy whispered. "I'm just trying to make money for my kids. I have 4 kids. Please don't do this." "Do what I say and everything will be all right," Calvin said. The dashcam recorded her face in profile, eyes forward, jaw clenched, hands at 10 and 2. She drove east on the Triborough Expressway while Calvin held the gun steady. She wanted to believe him. Do what he says and everything will be all right. Give him money, and he'd leave. She had maybe $40 in her purse. Her bank accounts held less than $200 combined. Then Calvin grabbed her phone from the cup holder. His fingers swiped across the screen, unlocking it with the passcode he'd watched her enter earlier at a red light. Christy glanced in the rearview mirror and saw the phone's glow illuminating his masked face. He opened Venmo first. Her balance showed $37. He attempted a transfer to an account Christy couldn't see. The transaction failed. Insufficient verification. He cursed under his breath and tried PayPal. $82 available. Another failed transfer. The app required additional security steps. Christy drove through Wilkinsburg while Calvin worked through her phone. Dollar Bank mobile app next. Checking account balance of $116. He tried to initiate a Zelle transfer. The system requested secondary authentication. He abandoned it and moved to Square Cash. Christy's hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. She was watching her kidnapper attempt to drain accounts that barely held enough for next week's groceries. "I'm begging you," Christy said again. "That's all the money I have. Take it. Just let me go. I won't tell anyone. I promise." Calvin ignored her. He pulled down the dashcam, ending the video recording at exactly 18 minutes. What happened next wasn't captured on camera, but investigators would piece it together from GPS data and cell tower pings. Christy drove through East Liberty, through Larimer, down streets she'd driven 100 times picking up passengers. Now she was driving at gunpoint while a stranger ransacked her financial apps. The gun never left the back of her head. Sometimes Calvin pressed it harder, emphasizing commands. "Turn here. Keep going. Don't slow down." At 10:15 p.m., license plate readers captured the Nissan heading east on the Triborough Expressway toward Monroeville. 5 minutes later, Calvin directed her to exit at Monroeville Avenue. He guided her through residential neighborhoods until they reached Rosecrest Drive, a wooded stretch of road south of the Monroeville Mall. No houses, no witnesses, no cameras. "Pull over here," Calvin said. Christy's heart was hammering now. She knew what pulling over meant. This wasn't robbery anymore. Robbers took money and ran. They didn't drive victims to isolated woods at night. Her mind flashed to her children again. Her oldest daughter needed braces. Her son had a basketball game on Saturday. Her two youngest, who still crawled into bed with her during thunderstorms. "Please," she said one final time. "I have 4 kids." Calvin opened his door first, keeping the gun trained on her. "Get out." Christy's hands were shaking as she unbuckled her seatbelt. She considered flooring the accelerator, but he was already grabbing her arm, pulling her from the vehicle. They stood in the dark roadway for a moment, just the two of them and the winter silence. She thought about running. The woods were dense enough to hide in, but her legs wouldn't move. "Walk," Calvin said, gesturing toward the tree line. Christy walked, 50 feet off Rosecrest Drive, past a small creek, up a slight incline to a plateau area. Her feet crunched through dead leaves. She heard Calvin behind her, his footsteps matching hers. She thought about Brandon cleaning her windows before she left. She thought about saying their prayer on the phone. She thought about her youngest asking where mommy was. The gunshot echoed through the empty woods at 10:21 p.m. Brandon Mardo woke at 1 a.m. Christy typically returned between midnight and 2, depending on how many rides she completed. But the garage was empty. He sent a text, "Where are you?" At 4 a.m., he called Turtle Creek Police. Officers told him to wait. Adults don't become missing persons after a few hours. He should try friends and family first. But Brandon knew something was wrong. Christy never went silent, even when busy with passengers. She'd send quick updates. Nothing since 9 p.m. By Saturday morning, Pitcairn police spotted the gray Nissan on 4th Street, locked. No keys inside. Christy's purse sat on the front passenger seat, undisturbed, but the dash cam was gone. Officers secured the vehicle and began processing it for evidence. 4 hours later, an Amazon delivery driver was completing his route on Rosecrest Drive in Monroeville when he noticed something in the woods, a flash of color that didn't belong. He parked his van and walked closer. 50 feet off the roadway, past a small creek, lay a woman's body, face down in the dirt, still wearing the mask she'd put on that morning. Officer Francis Speranza arrived at 12:06 p.m. His body camera recorded his approach through the underbrush. The victim lay on a small plateau, partially obscured by winter vegetation. Single gunshot wound to the back left side of her head. A 9mm shell casing rested in the leaves behind her. Speranza recognized her face from the missing person report. "I hope that's not the missing woman from Pitcairn," he said to another officer. "It looks like her." Allegheny County homicide detectives assembled in their conference room Saturday afternoon. Detective William Herman took the lead on video evidence. His job was tracking Christie's movements through the digital landscape of modern surveillance. License plate readers, traffic cameras, private security systems, cell tower pings. Uber provided complete trip data. The request originated from Tanaya Mullen's account at 9:11 p.m. Destination, Durham Drive, Penn Hills. But the GPS showed Christie never stopped there. Instead, her phone traced a winding route through East End neighborhoods, Wilkinsburg, Larimer, East Liberty, back toward Pitcairn. At 10:21 p.m., her phone briefly disconnected from the car's Bluetooth near the 500 block of Rosecrest Drive. 3 minutes later, it reconnected and began moving back down the road. At 10:27 p.m., someone switched the phone to airplane mode. The digital trail went cold. Detective Greg Renko led the search for the dash cam. If it captured even a few seconds of the attack, it would provide irrefutable evidence. The device was small, easily concealed. It could be anywhere in a 50-square-mile radius. Renko's team retraced the GPS route, checking every dumpster, every alley, every wooded lot. They worked 16-hour shifts for 4 days straight. On Thursday afternoon, a junior detective named Peters was canvassing Penn Hills when he noticed an abandoned house matching one of the GPS coordinates. The front door hung open. Inside, garbage littered the floor. Peters walked through each room methodically. Kitchen, living room, bathroom, nothing. Then he saw it. Behind a broken radiator in the back bedroom, a small black camera with a suction mount. He called Renko immediately. The dashcam was intact. Passwords were protected, but Christie's family provided the code. Back at headquarters, Renko connected it to his laptop in the conference room. 5 other detectives gathered around the screen. What they saw in the next 18 minutes would become the prosecution's most powerful evidence. The video showed Calvin entering the vehicle, Christie attempting conversation, his silence. Then at minute 18, the shift to the center seat. The gun appeared. Christie's voice, clear and desperate. "Stop it, man. Why are you doing this?" Her face in profile, eyes wide. Calvin's hand wrapped in her ponytail. The gun pressed against her skull. The detectives watched in silence. They all knew how this ended. They'd seen Christie's body in those woods, but hearing her beg for her life, while her killer remained completely unmoved, was different. "Do what I say and everything will be all right," Calvin said on the video. Then his hand reached for the camera. The screen went black. Detectives interviewed Tanaya Mullen on February 14th. She explained Calvin had asked her to order the Uber because he needed to run errands. When detectives asked about weapons, Tanaya's demeanor shifted. She owned a Springdale 9mm handgun, purchased in July 2021. The gun went missing last summer after a family birthday party. She suspected Calvin took it. At 6:47 p.m. on February 17th, Allegheny County Police executed an arrest warrant at Calvin's residence in Penn Hills. He offered no resistance. In the interview room, he maintained he knew nothing about Christie's death and requested an attorney. The preliminary hearing on March 31st shocked even veteran court observers. Prosecutors played the 20-minute dashcam footage in its entirety. Family members of both victim and accused sat in the gallery, separated by armed deputies. When the video started, the courtroom fell silent. When the video ended and the screen went black, nobody moved. The silence lasted 10 full seconds before the prosecutor spoke. The trial began February 3rd, 2025, exactly 3 years after Christie's death. Prosecutors presented 73 pieces of evidence over 4 days. The dashcam video played again, this time for the jury that would decide Calvin's fate. When Christie's voice said, "I'm begging you, I have 4 kids," 3 jurors visibly recoiled. The jury deliberated for 47 minutes. Guilty on all counts. First-degree murder, robbery, kidnapping, tampering with evidence, firearms violations. The courtroom remained silent as the verdict was read. Calvin sat expressionless. The judge noted it was 3 years to the day of Christie's death. Sentencing occurred May 5th. Calvin Crew chose not to attend, remaining in his cell. Judge Edward Borkowski imposed mandatory life without parole. Pennsylvania law left no discretion. First-degree murder carried only 1 sentence. What Calvin did that night cannot be forgotten, because every hour there might be 10s of women going through what Christie went through. It's our job to spread awareness, and if you like case studies like this, then subscribe to our channel.